Dead as a Doornail, Book 6 of the Stan Kraychik Mysteries. Author, Grant Michaels. Publisher, St. Martin's Press, New York. Narrator, Eric Aust. Chapter 26. I head over to the south end via Berkeley Street. When I reach Tremont Street, I see Myron on the other side walking Betty. Myron is wearing big Sophia Loren-style sunglasses. No doubt authentic 50s originals. He and the dog are about to cross Berkeley Street and head down Tremont to the commercial area. The walk signals are lit all around, and Myron and Betty start crossing, as do I on my side of the street. Myron looks my way. I smile and wave at him. Then, believing myself safe with the walk lights lit, I start crossing the intersection diagonally toward the same corner where Myron and Betty are heading. I'm almost there when suddenly Betty turns toward me, breaks free of Myron, and lunges at me. His teeth are bared, and he's barking wildly. He grabs onto the legs of my pants and pulls at it violently. I'm terrified of those teeth, but there's nothing to do but go along with him. It all happened so fast, I can't make sense of it. Betty grabs more of my pants and yanks me to the sidewalk, pulling me to the ground. Here it goes, I think. He's going for my neck. It's only then, from down the sidewalk, that I spot a big black Mercedes-Benz tearing up Berkeley Street, running the light and careening onto Tremont Street. The horn blares and the tires squeal as the car zooms away. Through the car's windows, I recognize Hair for Brain, Selena at the wheel, and Thorne in the passenger seat. His finely sculpted head is unmistakable. Nothing like a morning joyride to keep the conjugal fires ablaze, I guess. Myron says to me, "Are you all right?" "I think so," I say as the shock of the moment passes. I see that Betty's teeth have torn my pants. Damn dog bit me, though. "Bit you?" says Myron. "Betty saved you." "He didn't have to bite me." "Ungrateful cow," mutters Myron. I roll up my pants leg to assess the damage. Sure enough, the skin is broken, though only superficially. No blood. I pass my fingers lightly over the wound. It's no worse than a paper cut. I was lucky. The crisis is over. I realize I've just uttered some heated words toward poor Betty. I'm almost ready to hug him for his lassie-like feat of daring, but when I look up, Myron and Betty are already walking away down Tremont Street. Betty's head is hanging low. He even turns around and looks back at me with sad, sorry eyes, as if he regrets grabbing a bit more than fabric. And those powerful jaws. I wave meekly, and Betty turns away. I get myself back on my feet, brush myself off, and continue heading south on Berkeley Street toward Chaumont Avenue. I want to go by XUXUX Salon in case Angie is back in operation. But her sign proclaiming a family emergency is still on the door, and there's still no sign of life in the place. Then I notice a light on inside that wasn't lit yesterday, but it's only a night light, probably connected to a timer gone out of whack. I peer into the place. It's as still as a mortuary. I head back to Tremont Street in the commercial district. Selena's Gateway to Paradise and Thorne's Domestic Tech are both closed up too, just like XUXUX, but with no indication why, after their mutual near misses with the police, and the near miss with me too, perhaps the happy couple has flown away in their death chariot. Maybe they plan to rekindle the urges that cajoling them in the first place, and to do it in a locale more conducive to their renegade personalities. A place like Hollywood or Key West. Thorne and Selena will embark on their new life, redefine their relationship, and settle down to a nice, comfy home life with traditional family values. No more drug rafts or centerfold escapades. Myron's domestic art is open, so I go in. I can hear him shuffling around with something on the floor behind the counter. His head pops up briefly. The Sophia Loren-style sunglasses are still on. He sees me and becomes nervous, as though he's doing something naughty. Down he goes behind the counter again, and I hear the sounds of a heavy box being slid out of sight. When Myron comes up again, he removes his sunglasses, and I see the Branco's prediction has come to pass. Myron has a black eye. It's a beaut, too. Looks like bad Betty Davis makeup. That's Betty, not Bet. I ask him how the real-life Betty is doing after our skirmish with Selena's Deathmobile. "Why," says Myron, "are you thinking of suing me? Because if you are..." "No, Myron, I'm not. Actually, I want to apologize for what I said about the bite. Betty didn't hurt me at all. I guess I was shaken up by the accident, and I didn't realize what I was saying. As if on cue, Betty comes out from behind the counter and sidles up to me, wagging his tail. He's still holding his head kind of low. I put my hand out to pet him gently. Gently. Myron says, I suppose I wasn't quite myself either, so your apology is accepted. And how's Betty? I say as I pet the dog's head. I look directly into his eyes. Betty returns my gaze and wags his tail. What is coming over me? Is this me actually petting a dog? Talking to it? Myron says, we're probably more shaken up about it than Betty is. He's very resilient. He has to be living with someone like me. Too bad about your eye, I said. Walk into a door. Myron tells me it's nobody's business. I tell him it might be mine since it all began on my property with Timmy's death. Myron says, what began there? Your trouble with Chip Holton. Trouble? He says. I have no trouble with Chip. No. There sure was a lot of excitement here yesterday. Police cruisers, ambulance. We had a little misunderstanding, says Myron. That's all. Are you going to file assault charges? I told you, said Myron. It's none of your business. Myron, you were among the many parties trespassing on my property 2 days ago when Timmy was killed. So I'm sorry to tell you, but it is my business. Trespassing? He says. Who was trespassing? You have no proof I was there. The morning I found Tim's body, someone else called 911 just before I did. Who told you that? Says Myron. Do I tell him I heard his own voice admit it? I think that anonymous call was you. He laughs. Dollface, you're grasping at straws. Look, let's make an agreement. The things that happen at your house are your business, and my relationship with Chip Holton is mine. Does that sound acceptable? Sure, Myron, especially since they coincide. Coincide? Weren't you at my place 2 days ago? Myron eyes me suspiciously. You must be a dick. You know too many things you shouldn't. You can think whatever you want, Myron. I will, he says, and I don't need your permission, dollface. Now, was there something you wanted to buy, or are you here just to bother me again? You know, some people show their affection that way, by bothering the person they're attracted to. So, is that how it is with you, dollface? Because I don't think you want to buy anything. I'll leave the buying and selling to you, Myron, especially the transaction known as blackmail. Oh, now, don't judge me, dollface. Isn't your relationship with Chip Holton based on blackmail? Too bad he's told it all to the police. Now you have nothing to hold over him. Myron says, you seem to know the answers to a lot of questions you haven't asked yet. The little dick has been busy. Busy being banished by the big dick. I tell him, there's still plenty of answers I don't know. Like, for example, why are you fixated on Chip? He's straight. Straight, gay, says Myron. Who cares when you're choking on a bone? Look, the boy has talent, so why not exploit it? It's just a matter of negotiating the terms. Chip Holton can put it up in Klieg lights that he's straight, and that's fine with me. I'm not asking him to do anything. He just has to be there. A tableau vivant for your pleasure? He did it for Thorne. Why not for me? Thorne didn't want sex. Is that so? Says Myron. It was strictly business between them. It was business with me too, he says. You make it sound like Chip and Thorne are as pure as the new fallen snow, right? They're just two healthy, South End heterosexual males making erotic photographs for the rest of us. But the photos aren't erotic. Not yet, says Myron. And I notice dark bruises on his neck, and I recall a discrepancy I heard on the police tapes. I says, looks like you've recovered pretty well, Myron. Yesterday you were all bruised and bloody. You saw that? He says, I saw the medics drag you out of here. Oh, says Myron, as though he's been pursuing vintage editions of Dick and Jane. I finally have a witness. Do you know, you probably do, that Chip denies he ever struck me? Can you believe that? Yes, he denies it. Yet, there I was, just as you said, dripping blood everywhere yesterday. Say, dollface, would you consider testifying for me? Testifying? I can't find anyone else who saw me. Myron, there was a whole crowd out there. Really? He says. Yeah, but no applause. I tell him I saw him come out of his store with the medics, but I don't know what really happened in here. Well, he says, the police didn't do it. I can tell you that. Do I hear a faint note of regret? I ask him, have you filed charges against Chip yet? Myron hesitates. There's still time, he says, and if you help me, I'll give you whatever you want. Anything in the store. It's yours if you'll testify for me. I want to get that boy where he lives. I want to bring him right to the edge of social extinction and let him teeter there a minute. And when he realizes that I have his fate in my hands, then maybe I'll let him go free, depending on my mood, of course. Oh dear, this is too reminiscent of my recent fantasy to humiliate Branco. Is it my destiny to be Myron's soulmate? I say, well, that's an awful heavy burden to lay on one testimony. I'll get him, he says. I'll hurt that boy. Why? I say. What did he do to you? He rejected me. Rejected? Myron, we all get rejected. But Chip rejected me as a person. As opposed to, what, a chipmunk? Myron says, I didn't want sex with him. Not at first. I knew he was straight. I just wanted to be his friend. I wanted to get to know him. But it was just no, no, no. Maybe you came on too strong. What's too strong, says Myron. I met him right after he came to Boston. He was working at members only. All I did was ask him if he needed an extra help. He asked me what I meant, and I told him I often had tickets to the big theatrical events, and if he was interested, he could accompany me. No strings, just some company to help him learn his way around town. He said he didn't really like theater, and that he was really busy with his clients. Maybe it's all true. Yes, says Myron, but he never even thanked me for the offer. Would it have killed him to say thank you? What do you call that? Bad manners, I say. Well, dollface, I call it rejection. No matter how many excuses you make, it's still rejection. Do you know what it's like to live in constant rejection? Probably not. Most young people don't. And you probably have it easy with all that money. I say, how do you know about my money? Myron says, it works both ways, dollface. You're not the only one who knows answers without asking questions. Didn't Chip accept a gift from you? Myron says, now I'm sure you're working for the police. No one knows about that except Chip and the police. Or did Chip tell you? But why would he? Are you undercover, dollface? Oh, I know you can't say. Then you wouldn't be undercover, would you? I'm not, Myron. No, of course not, he says. But you never know who's undercover, do you? Well, I have nothing to hide, and your being a dick actually works in my favor. Because now I know whatever I tell you will get back to the police. Now that we've cleared that up, I say, what about the nail file? Yes, the nail file, says Myron. Well, naughty Chip lost it, and then I found it. And do you know where? Well, of course you do. I found the nail file at your house. Then did Chip Holton's tune change toward me? He didn't say no so easily then. That's when I felt my power. That's also when I told him that I no longer wanted just a theater companion. Now you wanted sex. Oh, dollface, you have a way of destroying illusions. I told Chip I wanted something less adorned and more honest. Did he understand that? Myron says, he agreed to meet me, didn't he? Right here in my store yesterday. How could I know he had no intention of delivering on his promises? But how could Chip promise you anything if you were negotiating in illusions? They weren't illusions, dollface, not for me. Did you tell Chip explicitly that you wanted sex in exchange for that nail file? I didn't see how he could have misunderstood me. And what happened once he got here and found out what you wanted? That's when he... Then Myron starts blubbering. Within minutes, he's wailing uncontrollably, like a child lost in a shopping mall. The poor thing really needs his mama. Still, I don't dare comfort him physically. I know if I so much as touch the sobbing wretch, I'll catch whatever he has. Emotional ailments are highly contagious, and what Myron's got ain't pretty. The situation reminds me exactly why I gave up on clinical psychology. I can't maintain a psychic distance from people in crisis. I lose objectivity and tend to absorb their pain, which in the mental health field guarantees early retirement. My defense against this foible is to ignore the crisis and talk about something else. Is it any wonder I quit the field? I am rescued from Myron's crisis by his dog Betty, who rushes to Myron barking and wagging his tail, licking him and comforting him in a way I cannot. Finally, Myron regains enough composure to talk. Betty remains close by. Do you know what Chip said to me? He says, it was awful. I didn't deserve to hear those words. No one does. What did he say, Myron? He told me I was disgusting. That's the word he used. Disgusting. Same thing Chip said on the police tapes. Myron whimpers a moment. Betty joins in, then Myron goes on. Chip told me he'd rather strip naked in front of Thorne's camera than to let me even touch him. He told me he'd rather show himself off to every stranger who might buy Thorne's photos, that he'd feel real pleasure in doing things to himself for all the world to see, than he didn't care what people thought of him that way, but that even if someone held a gun to his head, Myron has trouble going on, even if his life depended on it, Chip wouldn't so much as piss on me because it would make him feel dirty. Oh, the rejection, the rejection. He sobs again, and Betty licks his face again. But now I see there's something staged about it. Myron had performed this little skit before. Different town, maybe, and a different cast, but the same show. I say it quietly. Chip never struck you at all, did he? Through his sobs, Myron snivels. No. So what did happen? He squeezed my neck. I couldn't breathe. The room started going white, but all the time he was hurling those awful verbal assaults, I felt myself fainting, and that's when he finally let go of me. It was awful. He was completely in control, and I was humiliated. Then I heard him talking on the phone. I think he was calling the police, and I felt so bad about what he said that I had to do something to hurt myself just to cover the pain of those words. It was filthy what that boy did. Absolutely filthy. Now, do you see why I want to hurt him back? Dare I admit that I might? You can accuse me of exploiting them, says Myron. Those soft-eyed boys with brawny backs. But what am I supposed to do when they show up at my door with a sign that says, "Use me"? What would you do? I can't answer that. Perhaps constant exposure to Chip's good looks and perfect muscles would erode my common sense too. Maybe they already have. Myron says, "You're not going to help me, are you?" Not intentionally, I say, but if finding the truth about Tim's death also serves your purposes, Myron, then so be it. Myron wipes his nose. You almost sound like a real dick now. Maybe I am. His eyes become cold and sober. Then why don't you whip out your license for me? I don't have one. We all have one, dollface. It's how you use it that counts. Some dicks follow rules and some dicks improvise. And some dicks want answers. Myron leers. And some dicks are content to feed sheep. I leave Myron's shop and I begin to understand why Chip Holton said those awful things to him. Because they might be true. A Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.